we are releasing a guest guru training from our private mastermind community, the Happy Hustle Club, because we have on Miss Tricia Sciortino, who is the CEO of Belay, a 9-figure company. And in this specific guest guru training, she dives deep into key strategies, tools, and techniques entrepreneurs can use to boost productivity and achieve this work-life balance. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast. Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Kerry Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model/actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality.
Tricia, the floor is yours. We're going to kind of kick it to you. I have some questions. The guys, if you have specific questions, we're going to kind of keep it open forum on this one. But essentially, Tricia, I want to give you the floor, kind of maybe fill in some gaps on the backstory that you see so fit. And then let's get into, first and foremost, why people need to effectively delegate to their team and some of the biggest mistakes you see. So floor is yours. Let's welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome introduction. Appreciate it. I appreciate you sliding into the spot. And it's great to spend the afternoon with you guys, even if it's just for an hour. And thanks for the intro. So I would say, it's been an amazing journey, going from the first employee to the CEO of an organization over the last 15 years. And I think, part of the reason that has actually even been possible for me is because of the act of delegation. Like, delegation doesn't even really cover, it feels like such a small word for such a big thing that has had such impact on me from two different perspectives. The first perspective is I'm a leader and I run an organization where we hire virtual assistants for people. So the idea that I need to know how to delegate and teach others how to do that, of course, goes without saying. And so I've practiced it and I've modeled it because we have to teach it to others. And that is one perspective that's been really amazing. But what is sometimes lost in translation with all of that is that I have been the recipient of great delegation. And I am where I am today because others have done so with me. And so delegation for me has actually been the gift. It has been the opportunity for me to have a career. Because the founders of this company, if not for the fact that they delegated to me continually over time, I would have never had the opportunities I had to get to the next level inside the organization. They continued to empower me, trust me, train me, put me in rooms where I was uncomfortable and let me flex and find my way, let me fall on my face and fail and try again. They let me do that continuously so that I can go from being an employee to a manager, to a VP, to a COO, and then eventually to a CEO. And then they've since exited the business. So I think delegation has, a lot to do about how we impact others, not even just how we impact how we use our time. So yes, there's this whole story around like, I'm a 40-hour CEO. I like to sit on that pedestal and say, like, I can run this company and do it in 40 hours because I figured out how to delegate and have great people around me. However, there's also this other side of things that's like, it's a gift we give forward and I continue to pay it forward. I've enjoyed receiving the gift of delegation and allowing me to have the career I want, but then I can pay that forward and do that every day. I delegate to those who work for me and I bring them up the ranks and the ladder with me so they can have the careers and the lives and the journey they want. So I really view it as like a very cyclical, pay it forward lifestyle, honestly, that I'm living around it. And then part two of your question, I think you said like where do people get hung up on?
Yeah.
Maybe delegation. First of all, I think, most people think it's just so tactical. when I feel like it's so much bigger than that. It's kind of like what I just, said is like, I think it is so much bigger than like, can you do this thing for me? And so I
Mm,
think when, at its surface, it's very much, get some things off my plate, so that my time can be freed up. But I think, there's a whole next level opportunity that people are missing around what, freedom can be given to your mind and your time when you delegate well. And I think the biggest gap is, thinking of it too literally and tactically. Poor communication is like the foundation of everything we see go wrong. Like
mm,
you can't give away things and truly let go if it hasn't like thoughtfully been given away and it's done well. And that requires a lot of communication, feedback, like tweaking and tuning. And I think a lot of people can just give up quickly on that.
mm.
So that's a big gap we see. And then I think people don't delegate things that I think they limit what they think is possible to delegate.
Yeah.
Like I think there's so much more on the list really that you could really offload so that you can kind of rest your head easy at the end of the day and put things to rest for yourself.
Yeah. So I want to get tactical for the guys because everyone here is a high performing entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And some of the things that you mentioned in our interview, I want to kind of echo to the guys. And then, gentlemen, please, if you have questions, put them in the chat so we can get some dialogue. But here's a couple things that stuck out, guys. So they hire all their VAs and their team members using the predictive index, personality assessment, DISC, and Enneagram. They first and foremost make sure that the personality is right for the position. So that's just a pro tip. If you're not doing that stuff on our hires, guys, we should be. Also, one of the things that you talked about was the 10-80-10 with your team. So once you have someone hired, give them the first 10% of a task, let them do 80%, and then finish it with 10% on the back end. So if you have a slide deck, hey, here's what I want done, kind of voice text it to them or Loom video it to them, then have them build it 80% of the way. And then on the 10% of the back end, you touch it up. Another thing that you talked about was you have KPIs for all your team, but especially your executive assistants. And you mentioned that you have them handle 75% of your inbox. So they are required to handle 75% of your inbox. And I've never heard this concept of having a percent of your inbox managed rather than, all or nothing, because that's kind of what we think as entrepreneurs needs to happen. So they handle 75% on your behalf, and then you handle the 25%. They're also, doing, a lot of the basic stuff, meeting coordination, notes, she's your follow-upper, as you said, like really making sure that all the stuff gets followed up upon, because guys, where the ball gets dropped is in the follow-up oftentimes. So we want to make sure that we train our executive assistants to actually, crush the follow-up. And that I want to stay there for a beat. How do you actually train these KPIs, specifically the follow-up one? Because I think that's one of the which that all the guys can really benefit from is like, you got a meeting scheduled or something that, went down and there's action tasks. If you're tasking them with the follow-up, do they then report directly to you that it got done? Or because you mentioned passing the monkey off your shoulder to theirs.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is your follow-up cadence?
Yeah, so we use like a task management system to load all the follow-up items, if you will. So my assistant will join me on any meetings that I'm leading that I know there's going to be like action or decisions on. If she can't join, we're recording. We're doing like we're using Fathom and all that stuff. So all that's captured. So the action items are captured and all the follow-up items are captured. And then she's managing that. And you can use a couple different tools. So it could be a spreadsheet. Honestly, we started out in a spreadsheet, a very elaborate Google sheet that she was managing, where all of those action items and follow-up things were taken out of the meeting, separate from notes, and just put on an action item tracker and due dates assigned. And then she's working off that list. We've since moved to Asana. We have a project for all this stuff. But I mean, you could do the very easy spreadsheet version. You can go high tech and do some IT version. And she's keeping track of all those tasks and deliverables that are due by the team. A lot of that, I mean, most of it's from my officers, honestly. And then my assistant is just appropriately following up and then updating me on our weekly one-on-one where things are. And a lot of it she does very visibly. So we have like a group Slack that she will kind of go in there and be like, hey guys, what's the update on blank? It's almost like she's a mini project manager, but the project is just me, because there isn't a project, it's a bunch of stuff, right? So, but like she's PMing everything I'm responsible for, even though it's not a project. So she's really, keeping track and keeping dibs on everybody. And if there's delays, she's moving deadlines. She's asking, well, if it wasn't done, when will it be done by? So she really just PMs all of those decisions and tasks that come out of things. And if it's bigger than that, then it probably does move into a project potentially, and then it might move into my operations team or might go to, a different department or something. But that's how she's helping me with small things. And sometimes it's like, it could be like, oh, I need, one of my team members needs to go talk to somebody because they're not hitting quota. And I just want to know what happened with that conversation. And it could be something as simple as that, like, hey, by the way, he's been put on a performance improvement plan, or hey, by the way, he's hitting it now because they coached him. Like sometimes it's people things, but it helps me get those things off of my mind because I know that she's kind of holding them for me. And then I don't have to remember, like, because I was going through a season of time where I was constantly like waking up like 3 a.m. like, oh, I forgot whatever happened with such and such, And I was
there.
like, or I'd be lying in bed. Yeah, like trying to go to bed, lights out, and I would go, whatever, I forgot about the such and such, and I was like, oh my God, this is literally like waking me up or preventing me from going to sleep. So I need to take all those things I'm thinking about and just put them somewhere, and my assistant was the place. And it's been like a really effective tool for me.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure-free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that The Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
Yeah. Does that resonate with anyone else? Like getting the monkey off your back, passing it off, and then having them report back to you when complete. Again, it seems like simple stuff, but are we practicing it? Another thing that I was impressed by is, you set the standard with your team on, here's my work hours, here's my lunch break, here's, basic stuff that you have a standard that they know that they work within these guidelines for your time. Can you unpack that a little bit? Because I feel like that's where the bleed happens. A lot of the guys, we have families, wives, girlfriends, we're busy with all the other stuff, but it's hard to turn it off sometimes, where you're like working through 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever you're deciding your work hours are. How do you, really create those boundaries with your team and then execute upon them?
Yeah, I think we made decisions early on that part of our culture was that we were not going to be a hustle 247 company. We decided, when foundationally was started 15 years ago, that we wanted to create a place where people would come to work and they would work really hard and we would deliver exceptional products and services, but that it didn't take over your life. You felt like you accomplished what you accomplished in those 8 hours, and that we wanted you to shut off and then go live your life. And that was very hard in the beginning. I am like a recovering workaholic for sure. The mind never stops of a CEO. I know, like, you're constantly thinking about your business, but we really wanted to do that. And so the first thing we had to do is we had to like practice what we were preaching and be very maniacal around like the expectations we were setting for our team. So like, I have to be the first one to sign off by 6 o'clock. Like, I'm not sending an email, a Slack. Like, if I am working, because sometimes there are seasons when you have to, things are happening. Like, I'm scheduled sending things. Like, if I'm working at night, I'm scheduling the email to go out at 9 the next morning, even if that's what I'm doing. But I try not to do those things, because I realize like I'm sending a conflicting message if I'm telling you I want you to have work-life balance or integration, and yet I'm sending emails at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, or 6 in the morning. So like, I will schedule those things to go during work hours, so I'm living the right example. So that foremost. And then we address when like we've had people and team members who they will work, want to work at night, and then they're kind of creating this workflow for other people. Like,
Yeah.
oh God, she sent me an email at 8 p.m. and now I'm reading and now I have to respond to this and I feel responsible to respond. So we really had to like address it with people who were doing that on the other side, to say like, schedule send, we need you not to do it. Like, you might be okay working at 8 o'clock, and that's awesome. We love you're committed and you're loyal and you're passionate, but like, what it creates for the people around you is not a positive experience, because maybe others don't. So it's a very cultural like norm thing we had to set for a season, and our leadership team really does like stand by that example.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm just putting in some of the highlights into the chat. I mean, the schedule send feature, guys, amazing, underutilized feature.
Totally. Boomerang, like even Slack has scheduled messages now.
Yeah.
Like Slack has like, so yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say, any other like pro tools that you've used to effectively delegate and leverage your time intentionally?
Yeah, I would say, those things for sure. I just mentioned I do use Boomerang, which has a schedule send feature, but then it has a reminder follow-up feature. So that was part of like the not losing track of things, or not waking up at 3 in the morning forgetting something, wanting to be reminded. So Boomerang does have like a remind you feature that you can use. So like, if it can pop up for you a week later, 3 days later, a day later. So I do use Boomerang a lot. So yep, Teams probably. I know there's others that absolutely have that stuff. And honestly, the biggest piece I use to keep myself within boundaries is my assistant. I mean, she is my technology. She is my tool.
Yeah.
She is my accountability. One of the things I do when I'm trying to unplug, I actually have found that actually taking time off is the hardest. I do a better job for me, it's easy to be done at 5 o'clock or whatever. Like, I don't have a problem with that anymore. I would sometimes struggle with like taking a day off or a week off, like being completely unplugged, and so at the beginning I would have to do things like Gmail has a feature where you can pause your inbox. So we do that. So when I'm off, we hit pause and like no emails come in. So even when you're on your phone, because I would be like I would be getting my Gmail and I would see 1, 2, 3, I would see a dinging. Now she's filing them for me when I'm on, but I still see them. And so I just would get sucked into the notification, or the inbox has an email in it. And so we will pause my inbox, meaning like Gmail holds everything and it won't enter your inbox until it's unpaused. And so then she would like schedule, she would like know, like, okay, I'm going to get in there at, you know, noon. I'm going to unpause it. I'm going to quickly file it all away. And then I'm going to repause everything again. And
Yeah.
she will do that when I'm off so that I can't get distracted and sucked into what my email is telling me I should be doing. So that's been a big one for me. I mean, and then the completely dramatic, just delete the entire app from your phone when you're on vacation. But that's, you know,
Yeah.
we've done that too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's helpful, guys, with social media. There's also a couple tools that are actually like blocking tools that you can research. Like you can block all your social media notifications, all the things for set duration. But I want to kind of do one more question for my own selfish purpose, and hopefully the guys can benefit too. But how you actually set up your inbox. This is something that I'm curious. How do you segment your emails coming in? Do you have specific stuff that you know, you mentioned they're getting cataloged. So this is something I think the guys can probably benefit from too, because you know, you're a pro, you're training executive assistants left and right. Your company, that's their bread and butter. So you've seen thousands. I mean, how many clients do you guys have right now? Like
We have 3,000 or over 3,000 clients.
3,000 clients paying at least 1,500 a month, right?
Yeah, more than that.
Yeah. So guys, do the math. All right. You know, so they're seeing a lot, at least 1,500, mostly some are upwards 5,000 a month, right?
Like 2,500. Yeah. I would say 2,500 is probably average deal size.
Yeah.
And then we have an accounting services whole side of our business, never mind. So that's a whole nother thing.
So we're talking a minimum emails company. Yeah. So you've seen a lot of inboxes from the back end of all these clients, and you have your own. So talk to us about the setup.
Yes. We're going to hit 9 figures this year, guys. Okay, that's like the big hack. Okay.
That's
all right.
huge.
So, yeah, inbox. I've tried it 1,000 ways. I've probably had 5, 6 assistants myself, and I've been an assistant, you know, so I've tried it a bunch of different ways. This is what works for me. It's different for everybody. But what works for me is I use a foldering system, and I'm in a Gmail. So this, you know, might look slightly different if you're Outlook or a different platform, but I use a foldering system. My assistant has direct login access to my email. So she's not delegated my email. She actually just logs in as if she's me on another location. I found that it just gives her complete access to use the entire thing the way she wants to. And then it gives her access to my calendar and my drive and everything else that way. So I want her to have access to everything, which that's a pro tip too, is that a lot of people like that sounds, you know, scary. Like you're just going to give them the whole keys to the kingdom and just like let them in. And I'm like, yep, that's actually what I'm recommending. Like
I do that too. Yeah.
Give them everything. Like you can't expect all this, but then you only give them like a little sneak peek. You got to give them the whole access. So she has complete access. She keeps my inbox open like all day with her. And, you know, we have KPIs and goals that, like you talked about, she handles 75% of my email. So she has set up a few different things. I mean, she sets up filtering, and she handles all spam. Like that is a no-brainer. She's constantly unsubscribing, spamming. I have like newsletter folders. Like we have some things that are auto filtered because I want to see them, but not in my inbox. I want to see them later. So like there might be newsletters that I get or financial reports or things I subscribe to that I don't want deleted. I just don't want them sitting there. I want them put away for when I feel like reading them. So we have like some filterings that she'll create. So I have folders I can go when I have time and read things. And then we have 3 main folders. So we have the Cameron folder, which is my assistant's name. And so when anything comes in that she is going to handle, she's going to reply, take action, like she's going to own it. She immediately pulls it to the Cameron folder and I can see it moved. If I get to it before her, if I happen to be in my inbox before she happens to be in my inbox and I see something and I want her to just take it, I will also move it to the Cameron folder. So whether she pulls it or I put it, things are moved to the Cameron folder. The goal is like 75% of the things moved to the Cameron folder. So like most everything's moved to the Cameron folder. Then we have a done folder. So then I have a folder that is after she took the thing and handled the thing that we put in her folder. She then takes the action and puts it in done, so I can see what was done. I can see her reply. I can see the action she took. I can see, and that for me, that just mentally closes the gap for me. Then I'm like, it's one thing to know she was handling it, but then it's another thing to see the done piece of it, to go, okay, check, like mentally for myself. That's done. And then the things that she's handling, there's multitudes of things. To your point, great question, Walt. Yes, most of the time she's replying to just about everything. Sometimes she will reply as me, and sometimes she will reply on my behalf as her and say, hi, it's Cameron. Tricia got this, blank, blank, blank. It depends on the criteria we set for those things. But those things that she's handling, it's replied, it's done, it's completed, it's filed, it's whatever it is, like she's handling that 75% of the things, but then I can see what the done is. And then there are things that are like, they are just for me and I need them because it's like an escalation, it's a crisis, my CFO has something, it's a board member question, like, or client outreach. So those things, which is probably about 25%, will actually just stay in my inbox. And so the ideal scenario for us is like, if it's sitting in my normal like that's for me, it's intentionally for me, and it's left there on purpose. And so I'm just working out of the inbox. So that is kind of the system that we've used. And it's simple because it's 3 folders, but it is like highly effective. And it's all we really needed. Some of the tips for training her on the other side of that is, getting to that place is the work. So we started with 25%. So the goal when she first was hired was like 25% of my email, please handle it. I will teach you how to reply. I will teach you who these people are. I will teach you more. And eventually then we moved the market to 50%. And we were like excited at 50%. And now we've been together long enough that it's at 75%. It'll probably stay there. But like the training process, and one of the things that she would really do to understand and learn was like, she would read my sent inbox. And so she would log in every day and just watch, like, what am I saying? Who am I filtering to? Who are these people? She would ask questions and take notes and then bring them to our one-on-one to say, I see you communicated with this person. Who is that? What was this about? What does this mean? So she was constantly asking for clarification on some of that so that she was gaining that knowledge. And then that built confidence for her to truly be able to own it on her own. And then the step from there was really draft it, let me see it. I will give you a thumbs up and then send it. So that was kind of step 2, like step 1, read my sent. Step 2, draft some things, let me review them. Step 3, you got this, you're on your own. And that probably took 6 months or so. Like we gave ourselves time for it to get to that place. But I spend a lot of time talking about email management because it's probably one of the biggest areas of impact that she has had for me, in addition to calendar, like schedule. My schedule is crazy. I'm sure your schedules are crazy, like a lot of calendaring.
Yeah. Guys, was this helpful just going through some of this inbox stuff? I feel like this stuff is gold for me personally. So I'm really grateful for it. But
I'm like inbox 0, like every, like 5 o'clock. There's like nothing in like, for real, it's empty.
That's epic.
Like empty. If there's like one thing in there, it's because I've intentionally saved it for tomorrow.
Got
it. That would be it. Like that's my goal.
So, just a quick note. You mentioned, you have these 3 folders, right? And guys, this obviously you just plug in your name and your name of your assistant, and then obviously the done folder I think is good. The step 1, read your sent. Step 2, send replies for review, and then step 3, they're kind of on their own to do it. I think that is a really important piece to kind of transitioning your team, guys, to make sure that they are getting the proper training, not just, hey, here it is, and then you got a bunch of like wonky responses from your assistant to people that shouldn't be. Like, we got to kind of not let our hands off the wheel completely here, guys. So just on
It's
that
like
note.
training. It's like training. I'm like, I don't want you to make me, I make myself look bad enough. I don't need you making me look bad too. So I'll take care of all that.
Yeah. So the thing I think Brian mentioned, just do you have a personal email and a professional email, or just one, and are they managing both? I want to stay on email, guys, and then we'll go back to Justin and Brian's questions too. But do you have a separate email for them as well, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So she manages my work email only. I
Okay.
do have a personal email for personal, but transparently, I do a lot of my personal work, my my personal work via my work email. So like she will help me, like she helps me plan vacations and do different things like that. And we just have that all set through my work email so that she can have access to that. If something comes to my personal email, honestly, it's like 90% junk and things I subscribe to in coupons. And it's like my dad and, like my one aunt. Like that's my personal email. So everything else is really funneled to my work email transparently.
Mm,
So there's really not much going on in my personal email that she has to manage. So
got
we
it.
don't, yeah.
Okay. Oh, you mentioned calendaring. This is something I want to kind of touch on just one sec, and then we'll kind of get into some of these other questions. So guys, if you have your questions, put them in. When it comes to calendaring, or however you calendaring, what is some pro tips and strategies that you've been able to implement with your EA?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I don't want her to constantly be asking if she can schedule something at a certain time. So like in order to avoid like they want to meet on Wednesday at 2, is that okay? Like I don't, that defeats the entire purpose.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I have like created boundaries where she has carte blanche to schedule inside my framework. So I have like a calendaring framework. Like
right.
if it says it's available via this framework, you can book it. Okay. So like I don't want there to be like, what do you think? 2 o'clock. So
Yeah.
she knows. So I have like an ideal work week, month, and I have my year actually planned out. I know I'm ridiculous. But like she will know in a given week like what my criteria are and what she's able to schedule. So I have recurring things that are set that are already blocked out. Obviously, we're not touching those. Those are like all the things that must happen every single week, which are like meeting with each of my executives, meeting with her. She's my first 9 a.m. meeting every single Monday. That's like super important to set up my entire week. There's standard meetings. I have leadership team meetings every Tuesday. I have, all company meetings. So all those things are blocked out and they are recurring at the same time all the time so that nobody has to worry about scheduling. That's all set. So like 50% of my calendar is already recurring set. It's never moving anyway, unless somebody has PTO and we're just rescheduling. So there's nothing really to do there. So she's just scheduling the one-off things. And then I tell her exactly when I'm willing to have other things be scheduled. So she knows, like, Thursdays are like, for me, those are like mostly days I have no reoccurring set meetings. I have all my reoccurring set meetings on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays typically. Thursdays are open, and we can put other things that come up inside those, whether I'm being asked to attend another company meeting or I need to handle a crisis or I'm going to join guys like you on a Thursday. So like I have flex time on Thursdays and Fridays. So she has criteria like that. She also knows like I won't take a meeting after 3 p.m. I always take lunch from 12 to 1, and those are like do not touch times. I want 30-minute blocks between every meeting. Don't stack me back to back. I need to
Mm,
breathe in between. I need prep time. She puts prep time before and after every meeting. So I have like this ideal scenario where I'll have open spots and then my recurring spots, and she knows what she can do. And then Fridays are like no days, like no meetings, not happening. I'm not getting on a Zoom. I'm not talking to it. Like that's my day. I need to like think, organize, create, cast vision, do work, do the big work I have to do for the company as far as strategy and staffing planning and things like that. So she has that framework and then she can just go run with it. The only thing she would maybe check with me on would be if something is worthy of the spot or not,
mm,
whether it's a yes or a no. If it's a yes, she has carte blanche to schedule it. But sometimes she will have to ask, is this even getting on the calendar? Or just saying, unfortunately, at this time, she's unavailable, which, that's how sometimes 50-50, because not everything's going to fit on the calendar.